Hey friends, it's Steven with Leviathan Snakes, and for this week's video, we are going to be talking about the thing that I think most ball python breeders forget when they are starting their ball python breeding business. So, we hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you do, please like, comment, subscribe, and let's jump into it. We're not going to have a lot of suspense or anything like that. We're just going to go ahead and kind of throw it out there real quick. So, the thing that I think most ball python breeders forget when they are starting their ball python breeding business is who is the person that is going to give their business the best shot at being successful. And there's a little tiny bug in here, but the reason why I think this is super important is if you don't know who your target customer is, it's going to be really hard to develop your business in a way that is going to maximize all of the effort that is going to take to make your business successful. So I'm gonna kind of back up a little bit from target customer and all of that stuff and talk a little tiny bit about segments. So segments are more of observations about an entire market. And there is some data that's available about the reptile market or the ball python market in general, and this kind of comes from social media or from Morph Market or anything like that. But what I'm going to, again, just kind of using my anecdotal observations, is say that there are three general categories when it comes to the segments that exist within the ball python market. And these are pretty broad. So I think one segment are pet keepers. I think that is probably by sheer number the biggest segment in the ball python hobby. The second segment that I think is pretty prevalent at any point in time are new ball python breeders, and they are specifically new ball python breeders, not new ball python keepers. So they have different motivations, they have different pain points, there's different things that define new ball python breeders versus just pet keepers or new pet keepers or anything like that. And then the last one that we're going to kind of discuss as a segment is the established breeders. So we're going to jump in first on the pet keeper side. So just because you say that I serve pet keepers, I want to make amazing ball pythons that pet keepers would love. It'd be the perfect animal for somebody who's never had a snake before. There are different types of people, there are different personas, and personas in this case are just kind of generalizations, but a little bit more specific than just pet keepers in general. So when we are talking about pet keepers, what we are saying is this is somebody who wants to own a ball python but does no intention of breeding them, or at least has no intention of breeding them at that point in time when they buy it. So when we are talking about this, often, not 100%, these are generalizations, they are trying to buy animals that are $500 and less, and often they are wanting very bright, flashy, beautiful animals. So animals that are generally popular with the pet keeper segment are bananas, bells, and pieds. And you see that these sell really well, especially at local shows. And it doesn't matter that a banana has been out for years and years. There's a new person who sees a banana and they think that it looks beautiful and they want it as a snake. And this doesn't mean that pet keepers don't buy a normal ball python or a cinnamon ball python or anything like that. But it's just, in general, they really like these bright, flashy snakes, and that bananas, bells, and pieds tend to catch their interest the most. Now, when we're talking about the segment of pet keepers, there are different types of pet keepers. There is one type of person, we're going to call them Curious Christine for our persona. A Curious Christine is somebody that has been interested in reptiles or been interested in ball pythons for a long period of time, or they may not have been researching for a long period of time, but they've always thought that they were kind of cool. And often, Curious Christines have never really been around them very much. So it's not like that they have had a friend who's had them or a family member who's had them. The idea of a reptile, the idea of a ball python is new to them, and it makes them curious about them, and it makes them really excited. So Curious Christines often, when they buy they're buying their first animal most of the time, because once they have one animal, it kind of changes the persona that they'd fit into. But anyways, when they're buying their first animal, a lot of times it is at a local in-person reptile show. And this doesn't mean that they don't buy them online or anything like that, but this is just one avenue that you can find Curious Christines. They don't have a lot of experience with reptiles. They may have done research, they may not have, but often it is that they find a specific animal that they really, really like and that they connect with, and they want to buy them like on the spot. So when this ends up happening, it is perfect. It's perfect for local shows, and it's perfect for established breeders or new breeders because they are buying generally sub $500 animals, which are easily accessible by pretty much anybody who's been breeding ball pythons. And they are able to support the local breeding community. You don't have to be a top breeder to sell to Curious Christines. The one caveat on this is they may, not all the time, because sometimes they do a lot of research beforehand, but they may have a lot of questions and a lot of post-sale care that is needed because they've been really excited about the ball python, but they are really nervous because they aren't used to having an animal that doesn't eat every single day. So if they don't eat once a week, or however often it looks like that they're supposed to based off of the research that they do online, they may get stressed out and they may contact the breeder. There are lots of different things that come up with this segment, but Curious Christines are one persona that fall within the pet market, and the way that you would market to them effectively is different than the way that you might market to a bioactive Bradley. So a bioactive Bradley, again, a second persona, a second type of person that still falls within the pet segment. They are somebody who has done a bunch of research. They may own other reptiles, or it may be their first one, but they are defined by somebody who is trying to do a ton of research that they've probably bought their setup and had it ready for a month or two before they ever get the animal. They are monitoring so many different data points, like the different temperature and humidity of each corner of their enclosure. These types of people often have very, very specific ideas of how the species that they want, in this case ball pythons, should be taken care of. And often the bioactive Bradleys are more likely to buy from somebody that they perceive to have the same values when it comes to caring for the animals that they have. So a bioactive Bradley is still looking for a pet animal. They're still looking for a companion that they want to love and adore and see and all of that stuff. But they probably wouldn't buy from somebody like us because they would see the ARS racks and think that that means that our methods of husbandry don't align, and they would rather do business with somebody who they did. And all of this is perfectly fine. There's no value statement on whether or not somebody would rather buy from a breeder who has all bioactive vivs or a breeder who uses ARS racks. They're both equally valid. So the reason why I bring this up is that if you are trying to market to bioactive Bradley, it's probably not going to be fruitful for you to spend a bunch of time at local reptile shows trying to sell to bioactive Bradley. So there might be some there, because often they are not impulse buying. They're buying once they've done a bunch of research and they've done a bunch of preparations beforehand. Now again, maybe you might go to a reptile show and this is the reptile show that a bioactive Bradley wants to make a purchase at. And you might be there and they might connect with you and all of that stuff. But you're probably going to have better luck marketing to bioactive Bradleys by marketing your business on social media in ways that they can find it. So that way they recognize like, oh, this is a breeder that I really like and they align with my values, so I want to do business and support them. So that is our pet segment. There are lots of other personas that you could develop that go into this, but these are just two that we can kind of talk about and use as a basis going forward for the rest of this video. Now, the new breeder segment, we have 3 of them in here that we've kind of thought about right now. And the first one that we're going to talk about is the investment Isaac. So investment Isaacs are people who primarily, they want to breed ball pythons because they think it's cool, they love the animals, they really, really like specific projects, but their primary motivation is so that way they can at one point, one day, make breeding reptiles their full-time income. And this might be that they love the animals so much that they know that that is their passion and that is their calling, or it might be a situation where they don't have a job that they enjoy and that they would rather work for themselves and build something with the animals that they own rather than working at a corporation or something like this. Now, investment Isaacs, because they are going into it with the idea that they are going to be building a business, but they don't necessarily have a business yet, and that businesses take a lot of money, they are often willing to invest thousands upon thousands of dollars in order to start up their potential business. And this means that they are buying lots of racks, they are buying animals, they are buying a lot of different stuff, and often I think that it's like this persona, this type of person, that really drives the breeding part of the hobby. So pet owners are driving like the general population, and it's how people get introduced. But the breeding part of the hobby, I really think that it's the investment Isaacs that are putting in a lot of the force here. So they are newer breeders who are trying to get I don't know the right way to say it. But anyways, they're trying to start up their business. So they're buying lots of stuff and they're investing very, very heavily at first. So the things that these people are looking for is they're trying to see tips on how to breed better, tips on how to start and structure their business better, how to market it, things like that. So the second kind of persona that you have in the newer breeder segment is the hobbyist Hannah, is what I think we called her. And a hobbyist Hannah is somebody who has probably been a pet keeper for a while, and that they have felt that the idea of breeding is really cool and really fun. They don't necessarily have an end goal of starting a full-time 100%, that's their primary income, from breeding reptiles. Instead, they may have a project that they want to explore, or they might have like 1 or 2 clutches or 1 or 2 pairings that they want to do a year and make some bells or some pieds. And they just want to do it because it's fun and it's cool and they enjoy it, but they're not super serious about it and they don't want to get overwhelmed. Generally, these people are just getting a handful of animals that they are producing a year, and they're not necessarily trying to buy a whole lot more once they get their initial animals. So they buy their initial animals, they kind of breed them, and then they're pretty much good to go, and they like it. It's more of a hobby to them, and it's just fun. So the third persona that we are going to talk about when it comes to newer breeders, I think Courtney called it, let me check my notes. Courtney called them Nepo-Nancies. So, Nepo-Nancies are people who have been around animals for pretty much their entire lives, or been around ball pythons their entire lives. These are people whose parents maybe bred animals or breed animals, or people who've had a family member or a close friend who is really, really big into the hobby. And the Nepo-Nancies, they have a lot of the advantages that other newer breeders don't, because they have way better education and way better knowledge coming into it when they decide that they want to become a breeder, and they have way better mentors because they already know people who are part of the hobby. So these people are also probably going to be investing pretty hard, but they're going to be investing from specific people that their mentors, whoever it is that they know that are already in the hobby, can vouch for. So that doesn't mean that they won't ever branch out from there, but these people have a 100% leg up, and they want different media and different content that we're going to get into later in this video than the investment Isaacs or the hobby Hannahs. There's countless different personas that you can develop that don't fall into any of these categories, and just because I say that there's one of these categories, that's a generalization. It doesn't mean that you have, if you're an investment Isaac, that you're only an investment Isaac, and that you don't have just a hobby level project that would kind of put you more as like a hobby Hannah. And you can hit multiple different ones, but these are models, that way you can build out or understand how you should structure your business in order to have the best chance at success. So now let's go over to the established breeders. So established breeders are people who've been doing this for quite a while. It doesn't necessarily have to be a decade or something like that, but these are people who have already established their breeding plans and their breeding business to the point where they are not heavily buying new animals or new equipment or anything like that. Instead, they are mostly producing their holdbacks, and they are buying just 1 or 2 animals here and there. So the established breeders, there's a couple different personas that we had developed in this kind of sphere, and one of them is the show circuit Sean. So the show circuit Sean is somebody that if you go to a local reptile show, you see them almost every single show in your local area. It's like every single weekend they are going to a show and they are vending. So these are people who are often selling to those curious Christines or the newer breeders, just the entire segment. And they are having a lot of different animals at lots of different price points, so that way they can hopefully have something that will serve the customer. Now, the show circuit Sean's, one thing that I think is interesting about them is because a lot of their income probably does come from their reptiles, they need to make sure that they have enough reptiles in order to sell at shows. So when they're doing this, these people, beyond just buying like one or two like higher end animals in order to progress their projects that they're working on. They may also be open to buying wholesale animals so they can make sure that they have enough animals to sell at shows. So if you are a newer breeder and you don't really know what to do with the animals to sell, maybe you're not having the best luck and you want to wholesale them, you should consider looking into a show circuit Sean as a potential wholesale customer. So that way maybe you produce the animals and then they can take them to the shows and sell them throughout the area because they're willing to put in that level of work to sell the actual animals throughout your local area. Moving on from the show circuit Sean, this next one actually could be a new breeder, it could be an established breeder, it just really depends, but we call her the influencer Isabel. So influencer Isabel is somebody who is breeding reptiles but has a huge interest in social media. And in a way, we are kind of like this. We kind of fit into, I would say, probably the investment Isaacs, the influencer Isabels, stuff like that. Now, the influencer Isabels, what I think is interesting about them is that the social media aspect of their hobby is actually really, really important to them. They want to produce content, whether this is videography, whether this is photography, whether this is a podcast that is centered on the animals that they love. They want to share their ideas. They want to be part of the community, and it's part of the community that is really, really important to them. So I think that for the influencer Isabels, you are often going to have an easier time finding them on social media than you would at a pet store or at a local show. They may go to local shows, but it's kind of a shotgun approach if you're trying to find specifically influencer Isabels to be your target market. Now, these people, they can span the gamut. They can be like breeder focused where they're trying to get higher end animals that are specific for breeding projects. They can be more pet focused where they're looking for beautiful animals that they can take amazing pictures of, amazing reels of, and share them with their audience. But overall, there's lots of different things. It's social media is the thing that kind of like defines this specific persona. The last persona that we have in the established breeders is the leader Lytle Lee, and the Lytle Lee is a name that Courtney gave it, so that's what I'm calling it. So a leader Lytle Lee is somebody who is been in the hobby for quite a while or has invested a ton of money into the hobby to the point where they are in the breeding hobby on the leading edge of projects. And when they are on the leading edge of project, because most of the people in the leader Lytle Lees often have a lot of experience. They're not looking for content that tells you how to market your business or how to breed ball pythons or incubate eggs or anything like that because they've already done it from their own experience. So often the leader Lytle Lees, if they are looking at content, they are watching interviews from other people that they know and like in the hobby, and then that's how they kind of like get connected with the rest of the community. They may be open to doing collaborations on social media or things like that, but for the most part, they are not necessarily trying to consume how do I learn how to build an incubator or something like this. Now, the leader Lytle Lees, they will buy animals, but again, as with all of the established breeders, they're not necessarily trying to buy a bunch of animals all at once. If they're buying animals for the leader Lytle Lees, they are trying to find an animal that is going to push their projects way beyond what they were, or they're finding an animal that is like brand new and it's going to put them like at the start of a brand new project that they are very, very excited about. So this doesn't mean that they wouldn't buy from a new breeder, but for the most part, because they've been around for so long and because the animals that they're looking for are cutting edge within the hobby, they're generally buying from other people in the leader Lytle Lee persona or just the leaders in the hobby of whatever the different projects are. Now, I know that's kind of a lot of information. We kind of generalized a lot of different types of personas. And again, there are other personas. There are different people. There are the tire kicker people that I didn't even talk about because I don't think that most businesses want to target the tire kicker kind of persona. So we're not even going to talk about it right now. So when you are trying to build your ball python breeding business, or when somebody is trying to build their ball python breeding business, the thing that I think that they forget a lot of times is which one of these types of people, or different people, if you have a different persona that you want to target, is going to be the best one to target for their business. So if you have limited space, let's say that you have a bedroom, and you are really, really, really into the whole bioactive aspect of the hobby, you find it really fun, maybe you're a plant person, to make these amazing living vivariums, you might have a really good shot because you personally overlap a lot with the bioactive Bradley. So if you structured your business to focus on the bioactive Bradley, that would say that rather than you investing in a monsoon, you would probably have a better shot of serving bioactive Bradleys by investing in bells or pieds or bananas or something like that, and then setting them up in the amazing vivariums that you make, and then showing that off on social media in ways that you can connect with other bioactive Bradleys. If you are trying to target investment Isaacs, it's probably not going to do a whole lot for you to have like top 10 lists of the cutest ball pythons. While those are great content, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it, investment Isaacs aren't going to be interested in it, and they're probably not going to watch that video or read that article or see that post and really care that much about it. Instead, they're trying to find how are they best going, or what's going to give them the best chance to succeed at achieving their goals. So I think that if you choose to target an investment Isaac, it would inform the animals that you buy, it would inform the content that you produce, it should probably inform your brand. So again, we're talking about investment Isaacs. Investment Isaacs are people who are attempting to invest thousands upon thousands of dollars, probably their life savings, and a chance to make breeding reptiles their full-time income at some point in time. And these people often are not trying to buy from somebody who has a brand name like Suck on My Balls LLC. Instead, they would probably be they would feel safer to buy from somebody like Canova, who seems like a legitimate business who's not going to scam them. I know this was a lot. I know I talked for just a lot in this video, but we hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you next week.